Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Wednesday, July 14th, 2021, and today we're going to be talking about the 2021 Virginia gubernatorial election, in which the Republican nominee Glenn Youngkin is here to skip the first scheduled debate against Terry McAuliffe, the former governor of the state, a tradition that has been long-standing for 35 years that has now been broken because Glenn Youngkin does not want to participate over a donation that the moderator had towards the Clinton Foundation's Haiti Fund. Now, this was a donation made back in 2010 that was directed towards the recovery process in the country of Haiti. It was something that was a nonpartisan effort done by the Clinton Foundation in cohorts with President George W. Bush. In fact, the real name of it was the Clinton-Bush Haiti Fund. Yet despite the Clinton-Bush Haiti Fund not being a partisan effort or some type of political donation, Glenn Youngkin is using this as a reason to back himself out of the debate. Looking at it from an analytical point of view, there is nothing positive that Youngkin can have exiting out of this debate. All eyes are looking at a race that is expected to be closer, where Youngkin could truly restore some type of sense of normalcy to the Virginia Republican Party after they propped him up in a primary process that wasn't even originally supposed to go through a convention, ended up going through a convention for the sake of Glenn Youngkin and other Republicans of a similar stature, yet he seems to be in a position where instead of taking advantage of a debate where he could certainly debate McAuliffe on many major issues, is now removing himself from the situation. And the reason why I want to point this out is because this is a debate that has been held by the Virginia Bar Association. So essentially, it's something that isn't exactly a political debate ran by a Democratic part of the state or a Republican portion of the state. You know, this is something that is just meant to be an information debate for voters, the same way you would see it on the presidential level or the same way you would see it on the Senate level. And the fact that Glenn Youngkin is skipping it is very shocking to me. I was very surprised to see this headline because Glenn Youngkin is in a position where he really could make the Virginia governor's race in 2021 competitive. But he's throwing it all away in the name of a donation that wasn't even partisan. It seems that he's grasping at straws for this donation. Completely in the way that it looks, it just seems to be Youngkin's way of giving himself more time ahead of the next debate. And it honestly makes more sense, I would say, that Youngkin is using this as a way to get more time rather than being upset about a donation from the moderator. Because Glenn Youngkin actually just recently fell into hot water after President Trump sent out yet again another statement in which Glenn Youngkin had to respond in the affirmative of. In fact, Glenn Youngkin has gone so far as to try to disconnect himself from Trump that he tried to pin McAuliffe and Trump closer together than Youngkin and Trump. But the reality of the situation is Youngkin goes onto national television and wholeheartedly accepts the endorsement of President Trump. President Trump continues sending out statements and fundraising efforts in order to help Glenn Youngkin, so he can't really separate himself as much as he tries. As much as he tried during the primary process, as much as he tries to tie McAuliffe closer to Trump than the Republican nominee in the state of Virginia himself to Trump, it just seems to be a futile effort that really is not going to help anyone in this case. He's trying to, in a sense, I think, bring down McAuliffe's numbers, but the reality of the situation is the Republican nominee for governor will be so closely pinned to Donald Trump. And I don't think it's a coincidence that President Trump's support for Glenn Youngkin came around the exact same time that Youngkin announced he will not be there in that debate. He released it to the local press. They released articles about it, I think, a day later. So this is about a day behind. But the point being that Youngkin sort of just moved himself out of the first debate right around the time period, nearly hours apart, where Donald Trump had sent out another statement supporting Youngkin, saying that Youngkin was going to make Virginia great again. Now, this is not the end of debates for the 2021 gubernatorial election in Virginia. We will get another debate. In fact, Glenn Youngkin says that he will appear in 3 other debates, saying he will go to one, I believe here, with Hampton University, Liberty University, and the Virginia Peninsula Chamber of Commerce in August, the Appalachian School of Law in September, and then we don't know who the next host will be, but another debate in mid-October. So he's ready for debates in August, but seems to be pushing away this first debate because of a donation to a non-political fund focused on a recovery effort. And it honestly doesn't look good on the part of Glenn Youngkin to not participate in a debate. Everything about American politics is optics. In the state of Virginia, it's a state that recently went to Joe Biden by 10.1%. So he's not in good company when he makes such declarative statements, makes such bold moves, I will say. He needs to win over Biden voters if he wants to win in 2021. But right now, he isn't doing much to do that. The only thing that Youngkin really has sent out is that the state itself is quote-unquote falling apart. Right, or sending out ads tying Terry McAuliffe to President Trump. But I can guarantee you those 54.1% of those Biden voters aren't going to associate McAuliffe with Trump no matter how hard Glenn Youngkin tries. Because at the end of the day, McAuliffe was here in 2013 and was elected by roughly the same constituents. It's a larger state now, but incrementally elected by the same constituents. I will say that. And for Youngkin to try to separate himself after wholeheartedly, in his words, wholeheartedly accepting that endorsement from President Trump really doesn't make sense. It looks like he's trying to pander to the centrist wing of the state of Virginia, as well as to the further right Make America Great Again wing, because Youngkin needs to have that perfect balance, but he simply isn't getting it. And backing himself out of a debate where he could be a policy-based type of candidate, rather than be closely tied with President Trump or campaigning with Nikki Haley, someone who was a part of the Trump administration. What Youngkin could do is enter into those debates and completely change the way that Virginia voters look at him. But instead of doing that, he's backing out over what? A donation to the Clinton-Bush Haiti Relief Fund? I mean, to find such a minuscule issue to determine the basis as to why you will not participate in a debate that has gone on for 35 years, a debate that starts out essentially right when you get into that final stretch of the election season for the Virginia gubernatorial election. I find it to be quite surprising that Youngkin doesn't want to take this opportunity to prop himself up in the future. And looking at the future debates, he may participate in these, but who knows if he chooses to back out again in the future. What if there's a moderator that is going to moderate the first debate in August who donated in 2008 to the Obama campaign? Or maybe someone donated to the Clinton Foundation in 2013 for whatever type of reason. I mean, Youngkin's reason for leaving the first debate to cancel that first monumental tradition-style debate over a minuscule issue begs the question, will he do this again? Will he find another reason to leave that debate at Hampton University or at the Appalachian School of Law in Grundy or wherever it is in October? Youngkin isn't making this easy on himself because, as I'm telling you now, optics. It's all optics. And guess what? The Democratic Party is not going to let Glenn Youngkin breathe about an issue like this. They've already sent out statements the same day they found out that Youngkin was not going to participate in this debate, saying that he's cowering in fear. That is what will be remembered by the majority of these Democratic voters. The Virginia Democrats are the same Democrats that won in 2020 by 10.1%. Youngkin needs Democrats to win his election. He needs the margin to be closer than 2013. Terry McAuliffe won in 2013 by 2.5%. Obama won the state by around 3-4 points in 2012. So there was an increase in Republican support, or at least in terms of the margin, not necessarily an increase in terms of Republican support, but the point being that less people voted for Democrats in 2013 than they did in 2012. But that was not the case in 2017. In 2017, there was this large amount of energy against President Trump, which encouraged more people to vote for Democrats in 2017. But it did not match the amount of support Joe Biden received in Virginia in 2020. Virginia's Democratic victory here for Joe Biden was the largest margin for a Democrat since 1944. So there's a lot that Youngkin is working up against. So like I've been saying multiple times, he cannot win in 2021 without Democratic support. And if the Virginia Democrats are taking this as an opportunity to call him, in a sense, a coward, saying he's cowering in fear of debating Terry McAuliffe, those are the people, those 54.1% of the people that will resonate positively to such a message. If he did not make this move, if he was out there to debate, I'm sure the Virginia Democrats would find another reason to attack him. But giving them more ammunition does not help. If Youngkin was confident in his beliefs and confident in where he stands on the issues, he could go to the debate. and in what his mind would be expose Terry McAuliffe for certain policy faults. But instead of doing that, he's pushing all the way out to August. He's canceling the first debate that's expected to be that tradition, the normal style of debate, and sort of pushing everything out a little bit more. And I really find it to be quite interesting knowing that in this position, there is no new public data for the polls in the state of Virginia. People don't know how the state is going to go. And for Youngkin to be in this position where he doesn't even have any positive numbers means that he can't really be comfortable with taking such positions. I truly believe that it has a lot to do with what's being brought up against Youngkin currently. The constant ads of Youngkin wholeheartedly accepting that endorsement from President Trump, not even hours after he went out on television and said that towards President Trump, accepting the endorsement from the former president. The endorsement itself put him in a very tricky position. He had to accept the endorsement because he's the Republican nominee for governor, but the way that he did it was attacked and scrutinized. The same way him retracting from this debate is being scrutinized by the Virginia Democratic Party. And I'm not surprised. I don't think anyone is really surprised by this. But the Democrats are going to go into 2021 knowing that they need to do exactly what they did in 2019. There won't be any Virginia Senate elections in 2021, but there certainly will be House of Delegates elections, where Democrats actually reclaimed the majority after being in against the Republicans with just 34 seats in 2015. I want you to look at this actually to understand where the Democrats were in 2013 when Terry McAuliffe was first elected as governor. The Democrats won 33 seats. The Republicans had 67. The Republicans had a supermajority. The Democrats just had 1/3 of the state's delegation. Fast forward to 2015, the Democrats improve by 1 seat, 66 to 34, and then 2017 hits. And you remember that Ralph Northam won by 9 points statewide. So this margin here in 2017, the Democrats gained 15 seats down to the majority of what was 66-34, down to 51-49. And then fast forward to 2019, and while the Democrats are in the majority, they pick up 6 seats, putting them at 55-45. So in 2019, the Democrats were able to reclaim the majority, which means that they have a lot on the line in 2021 as well. It's not just the governor election, which means they are going to be attacking all of these Republicans down the ballot, including Glenn Youngkin, because if there is energy on behalf of Terry McAuliffe, the Democratic Party can do better in 2021 in the House of Delegates, potentially expand the way they did in 2019, or they have a little bit of room to fall relative to where the GOP is, which means that they can afford to lose 5 seats if McAuliffe wins, and still retain the majority in the Virginia House of Delegates. So all in all, this is never really positive for the Republican Party to back out from a debate. When you look at the recent elections in the state of Virginia, there isn't much hope for Glenn Youngkin. And considering that we don't have any substantial data, or really any data, not a single poll that shows Youngkin ahead of Terry McAuliffe, I can't imagine what was going through the minds of those campaign managers and Glenn Youngkin when he made such a decision. It is very evident at this point that this retraction from the debate either has everything to do with Donald Trump or everything to do with Glenn Youngkin not wanting to debate Terry McAuliffe so early. I think that looking at, it's not even maybe just the date thing, it's just more so what's being brought up against Terry McAuliffe right now. He might need more time to figure out what he's going to say, what he's going to do, and to cancel this long-standing tradition with the Virginia Bar Association is quite interesting. You never really end up canceling a tradition, especially if it's one-sided. If both candidates had said, okay, maybe we don't want to debate because of COVID-19, which would have been an issue that people probably would have been upset about, they would have said, okay, go to a virtual debate, but there wouldn't have been as much backlash. But since there wasn't that agreement on both sides to go ahead and end such a long-standing tradition, it only looks negative on the party that does it. In this case, that's the GOP, which is the GOP that was in the minority in 2019, in the minority in 2019 again in the House of Delegates, losing in 2020, lost in 2013, lost in 2017. There isn't much of a silver lining there for Republicans statewide, and I don't get why they keep making moves such as this one. Youngkin's close association with Trump is going to hurt him. Youngkin's comments about Asian Americans in the state of Virginia that recently surfaced will also hurt him. Now, this move to go ahead and cancel the debate, the first debate, is also something that will hurt him. it just seems to be what was expected to be a closer race. Youngkin seems to be pushing away. Youngkin had the opportunity to bring down what was a 10.1% margin of victory for Democrats down to a narrower one in 2021, potentially. And I say potentially because it was never really the favorite, but more so an opportunity, an actual chance for Republicans to win. He seems to be pushing that away. As more and more of this comes out, it seems what needed to be the perfect storm for Glenn Youngkin is actually starting to become the perfect storm for Terry McAuliffe. The election is just months away, and there is more that needs to be done on behalf of Glenn Youngkin if he wants to have a realistic shot at winning, but so far, he isn't giving himself much to work with. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2021 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.